Soundstripe. Soundstripe. Soundstripe.
What's going on, wrestling fans far and wide, and especially, hold on, wait a minute. That's better. Welcome, wrestling fans far and wide, especially my TNA Impact wrestling fans. If you love TNA, if you love TNA Impact, I'm excited to go over this show with you. This is the results from tonight's Impact show. Sorry, I'm a little bit late. I'd usually like to go right after the show goes off the air. However, husband duties come first, so I had to do what I had to do. But let's get down to it. So tonight's Impact continues the road to next Friday's Turning Point pay-per-view, headlined by a no DQ title match between the Knockouts champion Masha Slamovich and Alicia Edwards. The winner of that title match will defend the title at Turning Point against Jordan Grace, who has yet to which will probably be the person that they go up against. So in this show, we had the trios, we had a trios match, the TNA Tag Team Champions, the Hardys, versus Ace with Ace Austin, taking on the hard-hitting trio of Trent Severin, Hammerstone, and Jake something, because they got jumped last week. So let's get right down to it. The show would start off with, hold on, wait 1 second. Fix my notes real quick. The show would start off with the Women's Knockouts Championship match. Hold on. Wow. Sorry, y'all. My iPad is tripping. All right. So starts off with the with Tom and Matt welcoming us to the show in Fayetteville, North Carolina. The theme for Alicia Edwards hits, and out comes the sister member for her big championship opportunity. She settles in the ring, and then her opponent, the reigning TNA Knockouts defending champion Masha Slamovich, comes out next. Then Jade Chung handles the final formal pre-match ring introductions. And then as Slamovich was introduced, Edwards sneak attacks her to begin the match and gets her with the early offense. Then after that, the bell sounds. Edwards continues to work her over. Edwards grabs a kendo stick to use in this no DQ bout, but Slamovich avoids the shot, and then she takes over and has some offense of her own. They go back and forth for a while. Obviously, in the no DQ match, they're going to put out all the toys. I'm really excited to see the women being willing to take hard bumps like the guys and use the toys and the furniture in their match when it makes sense, not just any and every time, but when it makes sense. I think it helps tell a very good story. One of the high spots was Slamovich looking for a superplex, but then Edwards thumbs Slamovich in the eye to avoid it, and she power bombs her on top of the trash can while it's sitting upside down. After that, she goes for a cover, but only gets a 2 count. She begins working her over more and more. Slamovich eventually blocks one of the kendo shots, gets a kendo stick from her and blasts her with it. She follows that up with the package pile driver and goes for the cover and the 1, 2, 3. And Slamovich wins the match and retains her TNA Knockouts Championship. Tasha Steelz immediately hits the ring and attacks Slamovich, which then brings out Jordan Grace. And she runs off Steelz and Edwards after that. And then, so it will be Slamovich versus Grace at TNA Turning Point for the TNA Knockouts Championship. And then after the match, the show heads to commercial break. The next match after that is Jody Threat versus Ash by Elegance, with George Iceman and Heather by Elegance by her side. So when we get back, the Rascals duo. So when we get back, the Rascals duo of Zachary Wentz and Trey Miguel are backstage with Kushida. The three talk about having eyes on the Hardys and Ace Austin showdown against Trent Severin, Hammerstone, and Jake Something, as well as their TNA Turning Point, as well as their match at TNA Turning Point. So then you go back to the Impact Zone, and Spitfire Steam hits, and out comes Jody Thread, accompanied by Danny Luna. Luna wishes her well, and then heads back to the back. After Thread settles in the ring, George Iceman comes out, vowing to help make North Carolina great again. He introduces Ash by Elegance, who comes out with Heather by Elegance. The bell sounds, and Ash rolls out to the floor to avoid threat. She rolls back in just in time to beat the ref's count. And then after that, she turns and rolls back out to the ringside area again. When she comes back in, Threat starts to take it to her, starts beating her up real bad. Like I said, she only for her butt to scoot off and beg off again. Heather gets involved from the floor. This allows Ash to take over and settle into a comfortable offensive lead. So Ash by Elegance is definitely running the heel gimmick right here. Uh, Threat eventually fights back, but when she goes for a top rope spot, Heather distracts her, and the ref and Iceman holds on to Ash. Threat crashes and burns on the mat down below, and Ash follows up with their finisher for the win. After the match, the show heads for another commercial break. So Ash by Elegance getting another victory. Just trying to build up. She will probably once again fight for that TNA Knockouts Championship. I'd be on the lookout for that. Next up, we got Mike Santana, Frankie Kazarian have sights set on the throne. So when the show returned, Mike Santana's theme hits, and out he comes through the crowd. He settles in the ring and gets on the microphone. He talks about how everyone can relate to people doubting someone trying to achieve their wildest dreams. And then he makes everyone a promise that he will sit atop the throne and become the TNA World Champion. As he continues talking, he is cut off by a familiar sound of the theme of Frankie Kazarian, and then out comes the self-proclaimed King of TNA, taking issue with him talking about sitting on the throne. He says the only throne he's going to sit on is the toilet somewhere in the Bronx. He says if anyone's going to sit on the throne, it's the king of TNA, Frankie Kazarian. He says Santana beat a moose, and that's cool, but it's only one win. He boasts having the Call Your Shot trophy. Santana tells Kazarian that he and his trophy smell like douchebags. Santana says before he was interrupted, he wanted to put Nick Nemeth on notice and let him know there is a new contender in line. He says since Kazarian is out here, he's got no problem cracking his skull. Kazarian tells him to put his hot Puerto Rican temper in his back pocket. He will gladly send him back to the slums and streets he's from, but he's got bigger and better things to do as well. He says he'll be at TNA Turning Point, and he's going to have his sights set on the Nemeth title belt. Santana says it's funny he brings up Turning Point because he doesn't have a match yet. Kazarian says he doesn't either. He's taking the night off. Santana says there's no nights off in TNA, and he knows Santino Morella is in the back somewhere. He says he's going to find him and make that match official. Santana tells Kazarian and the people have spoken and tells him good luck tonight with Rhino because there's no running for his ass. So then after that, Frankie Kazarian goes up against Rhino, who he does defeat. Pretty, like I said, the fans were all about Rhino, all about the gore. It was some back and forth in that match and action, but like I said, we see Kazarian pull the win out of nowhere when he snuck his feet on the ropes during the pin attempt on the newest addition to the TNA Hall of Fame wrestling fans. So fans boo like crazy as Kazarian taunts them with his trophy. He turns around, and as he does, he is overrun by a gore from Rhino for a big pop. Then after that, there's the Steve Macklin mini movie. So in some weird, depressing mini movie, we return to see Steve Macklin in a bar having a drink. Lost in thought, and sad music plays. He leaves, and then Eric Young takes a seat at the same bar. We follow Macklin to his hotel where he takes a shower, looks at pictures, and sleeps. He then thinks about his military background and goes to some police station where someone walks in and sets a cop badge down. Camera pans up, and it's none other than Eric Young. Someone pulls a chair up next to him and sits down. It's Eric Young. Young asks Macklin if he knows why he's here. Young and Macklin talk in a soprano style psychiatrist fashion, We see shots in the jail cell that Young returned to TNA in. Young starts yelling, "Wake up, Steve!" And then Macklin is shown waking up in his hotel to knocks on his door. He opens up the door, and it's, you guessed it, Eric Young. He smiles, and then very bizarre but highly quality segment comes to an end. I really don't know what they got going on with these two. We talked about it briefly last week. They had an interaction last week. It looks like he's trying to wake him up, trying to bring him back to reality. Eric Young, who I believe has no reality. It's really weird that he's the one trying to bring a guy back to reality. But however, nonetheless, like I said, these two are having some type of comeback to Jesus moment. And like I said, hopefully this helps um Steve Macklin get his mojo back and get back to being that high quality superstar that we know he can be. We go back inside the impact zone. Then Leon Slater's theme hits, and out he comes out for the next match of the evening. He settles in the ring, and then his partner Laredo Kid makes his way out. The opponents for the two high flyers, Moose and JDC of the system, make their way out next. The entire group of the system actually comes out, showing off new rings they all have after their lengthy ring presentation ceremony that took place last week. They all touch fists together like the Shield in their prime WWE days. And then Moose and JDC head to the ring while the others head to the back. The bell sounds and the Kid and JDC kick things off. Which, can I just stop for a second? Moose want to be Roman Reigns so bad. Everything from the theme song, from the slow talking, the slow saunter to the ring. Like, he wants to be like the Black Roman Reigns so bad, bro. It's so obvious. It's horrible. Like, for real, for real. He really needs to get a grip on himself. Like, he'd be better off trying to be another character than just trying to be the Black Roman Reigns in TNA. But we move on from there. The match goes back and forth. It's a bunch of back and forth. One of the high spots is JDC immediately attacks Slater after the win. Moose joins in on the fun. He powerbombs Slater and directs traffic, ordering JDC to hit the down and dirty off the top rope. Laredo Kid comes in behind with the steel chair and makes the save, running off the system duo. After things wrap up, they go to another commercial break. After that, we get my favorite guy, the main attraction of TNA, Mr. Joe Hendry live. The show returns to the viral smash hit. I believe in Joe Hendry. As always, say his name and he appears. He does to the roar of the crowd in Fayetteville. He starts off talking about the Thanksgiving being right around the corner. Then Hendry says that he has a lot to be thankful for this year. He says his goal is clear, though, and it is to become the TNA World Champion. He says instead he is in a Thanksgiving Turkey Bowl match at TNA Turning Point. Instead of holding the title like he should, he might be standing here in a giant turkey suit. Oh my God, that's going to be a sight to see. He says greatness is worth the chance of humiliation. If he can beat 5 other TNA stars, he gets that much closer to becoming TNA World Champion. He says when you have the dream and a goal, you go all the way to achieve the dream. He says anything is possible when you believe. His theme hits, and that is the end of that segment. Get Joe Hendry the TNA World Championship. I understand that Nick Nemeth is the man. I understand he is such a great talent, but there's no way Joe Hendry should not already be world champion within TNA. All right. We go back from there and we come back and we see Nick Nemeth backstage, and it sounds like everyone still believes in Joe Hendry, but he's focused on TNA Turning Point 2024. With that in mind, he got his sights set on Eddie Edwards. He says he's ready to continue to set an example of what it takes to be a fighting champion. Nemeth says at Turning Point, the wanted man does what he does best. He steals the show and stays your TNA World Champion. Not mad about it at all, and it's true. He does steal the show. We move on from there to Savannah Evans, who defeated Brittany Jade. This match was back and forth, like I said, like pretty much like most of them, but it was a quick match. As soon as we get back to the impact zone, the bell sounds, and we're officially off and running with our next match of the evening. And pretty much Evans dominates from bell to bell in a squash match, ending things with the full Nelson Slam for the easy win. And then we go to commercial break. We come back from that and we do the Jake Something, Hammerstone, and Trent Severin match where they defeated the Hardys and Ace Austin. So when the show returns, we see Masha Slamovich backstage with the TNA Knockouts Championship. When Jordan Grace approaches her, the two end up deciding to settle things once and for all to find out who is the best. Their title tilt at Turning Point is now 2 out of 3 falls. Yes. That's what I'm talking about. That's what we need to see. These two women are going to tear it up in that match. It's going to be a very good match. We go back inside the Impact Zone, and in the ring, the entrances for our 6-man tag match main event happen. As Jake Something makes his way to the ring, next out is Hammerstone, and then Trent, and then the trio settles in the ring for the arrival of their opponents. Then the babyface team comes out. It's Ace Austin, who does a tribute to his ABC tag partner, Chris Bay. His theme dies down, and the iconic sounds of the Hardy Boys entrance plays to bring out the North Carolina's own Matt and Jeff Hardy. And we know they love when they go back to North Carolina. They go to a quick commercial break. Then after the break, when they return, the bell sounds and Matt and Hammerstones kick things off for their respective teams. The Hardys do well early on, with Jeff tagging in and picking up where Matt left off. The trademark poetry and motion double team spot that the Hardys are famous for doing begins to shift offensive momentum in his team favors, and he heads into another commercial break. They go again. They go back and forth between each other, all the way until the end of the match, with the big high spot being at the end. Uh, with back in the ring, Ace Austin is revved up and ready to go like a young Dana White when Trent Seven blasts him with a low blow when the referee doesn't see it. He follows that up with the burning hammer for the win, and the crowd boos like crazy. Yes, TNA booked the Hardys to lose in North Carolina. I can't believe it. Trey continues his heel antics afterwards until the Rascals and Kushida run out to make the save. The three shake hands with their opponents for TNA Turning Point, Hardys and Ace Austin. That's how this week's show goes off the air. So once again, guys, that is your TNA Impact review show for 11/21/2024. Again, I am your host, Virgil. We are building towards TNA Turning Point. I don't know. I might do a results show after Turning Point, but that will require me, because there's also SmackDown to which I think Fritos and Coach will probably handle SmackDown next week. But yeah, so we will figure it out. However, I'm excited for TNA Turning Point. I know you guys are excited for TNA Turning Point. Do me a favor, if you like this channel, if this is your first time watching, please like, share, and subscribe to our network. We are trying our hardest to get to 2,000 subscribers here on the We Book It podcast. So again, I'm your host, Virgil. Appreciate you guys. Until next time, keep those booking pencils sharp and keep on booking.